was almost like maybe camping was a way to get out of the apartment that he lived in, or get out of, you know, wherever he was living at the time, like, because he never had decent places to live. I think I pretty much have remembered everything notable for those years, the grade school years. My dad used to buy stuff for me and then use it very, very lightly. Like, for instance, a pellet gun. He would buy a pellet gun from this store called G.I. Joe's. We'd go camping and have this really cool pellet gun while we were camping and shoot it, you know, just like a couple times, and it would totally be kept in its box and everything perfect. And then the pellet gun would just disappear. That was my dad's way of getting stuff that we couldn't afford to play with for a little while, and then return it. And he did that with, I think it was my first bicycle that I ever got. He bought me a bike for like my birthday or Christmas or something. Same difference, 1 day difference. And just in the middle of winter, not really when you use a bike, so it stayed locked out in front of the house. About 5 days later, my bike was stolen. But they left the lock, and it wasn't broken. It took a lot of years to figure out what really happened. You know, obviously my dad just returned the bike. And he said, oh, you never really rode it anyway. It had been raining like straight. I mean, it was December in Oregon. You know, it's not really, so. I did get another bike at some point when we moved. I think when he got the settlement money from suing my grandfather, at that point, then we actually got stuff that he'd keep. But like I said, he would buy stupid shit with the money, so the money never lasted. You know, it's just going to be little stories like that. And you know, for anybody watching these first videos, these are probably just going to be the most boring thing ever. But I'm not telling my life story because I don't have some interesting stories to tell. I'm just trying to tell them in as close to a chronological order as possible. And I'm doing it in the order so that I can have a book writer person go back and get the information from the videos in a nice way and then write a book. So this is how I'm doing it. I'm not sure about the age. I assume this is probably right there in the age, in the grade school years. I was over at my grandparents' on my mother's side house and hanging out with my grandpa, and he was teaching me how to engrave. And I was engraving, and I think I still have the scar to this day. Yeah. Probably can't see it. It's right there. Wham! Right into my hand with the engraver. Had to go get a stitch. And I think that was pretty much the end of... I don't think my grandpa really tried to make me do it after that. Like, I'd hurt myself so bad I had a stitch or two, probably just one, but he probably was, you know, well, if the kid wants to engrave, he'll ask me, type of thing, right? So my grandfather's engraving was amazing, although most of it was on guns and cannons and such like this. So I'm going to jump into some junior high school stories now because I have some in my head. So I went to this junior high school that was called Milwaukee Junior High School, which some point stopped being a junior high school. Anyway, so it was old school. And when I first started going there, I was in the district. That would be like, well, either halfway through 7th or halfway through 8th grade, I moved from living with my dad to living with my mom and stepdad. You know, it was probably halfway through 7th grade year. So I started going to junior high school, and I just like ride the bus to get there. The whole school district situation in Oregon, Portland area back in the 80s was that North Clackamas School District was a better school district. Portland Public School District, so North Clackamas School District versus Portland Public School District, North Clackamas was far superior. My parents, my mom and my stepdad, lived in Portland Public School District, and my little brother went to a private school. My mom and stepdad couldn't afford to put me into a private school as well, so they wanted to keep me in North Clackamas School District. So that meant that I was now commuting, and there was no buses. So I was commuting with my stepdad on his way into college in the morning. He would drop me off at school. So this created a whole issue where I was at school early. And I wasn't like some, you know, I was like, I wanted to do stuff as a kid, you know, physically be doing stuff. Up and doing and moving around. And so now I'm here at the school, first thing in the morning, and the only thing is to do is hang out with the janitors. I start hanging out with the janitors, and I think that's when I really started to grasp the situation of, or the reality, started to grasp the reality of intelligence, right? So in junior high school, I was hanging out with the janitors for the lack of anything better to do, and I realized at that point that I was smarter than these men that were doing this job, right? And I just wanted stuff to do, you know, like I loved work day at the houseboat mortgage, and so I'd go and do janitor shit at the junior high school for nothing. I mean, they gave me no sort of thank yous or freebies or not. I mean, the janitors were nice to me, but you know, they were just putting up with the kid that had to be there. But this whole being transported into a different school district, oh shit, would serve to be problematic in my life. Again, like, so this went on for a number of years, and it was a bad thing in my opinion. Like this, you know, trying to get a better education by going to a different schools and spending all the time traveling and being in different areas around different kids. It led to me like having a weird friendship thing. This is basically now notable stories from my junior high school years. So where I grew up, junior high school was 2 years. And basically, I think the whole concept is you take kids that were in this situation where they would just go to school and they'd just be in the same room all day long. And then junior high was like training ground, like where you had different classes in different rooms throughout the day. So in junior high school, I think I already touched on this, how I started like the 7th grade year. I lived with my dad, taking the bus. Then I moved, like my dad went to Alaska. He went to Alaska like the summer before, I think, and I spent the summer with my mom and my stepdad. And then I think this was all a phase thing to kind of, like, my stepdad, like something like he was like, I hate this kid, and my mom's like, no, look, he's not bad now, or something. I don't know. That was the summer. And then the dad goes to Alaska, and now halfway through the year, so like Christmas break was the move. And it was not only a move, it was like a complete transformation. My mother took me to go shopping at Nordstrom's and bought me, at the time, I think the popular, it was like New Wave was the time. So like button-up shirts with patterns on them, and like sweaters, and I guess what you would call like preppy. So I went from 6th grade, when I went into 6th grade, between 5th and 6th grade, I think is when I bought all my rocker clothes. And then I don't really remember what I don't remember if I might not even have got clothes to start junior high school. I might have just been using the same clothes that I finished up the 6th grade in, my parachute pants and stuff. I don't know. I can't really remember too specifically, but I definitely remember my mom taking me to Nordstrom's, buying me a bunch of clothes that I was like, wow, this is some fancy stuff. And she also got me a haircut, a fancy haircut at this fancy haircutting place. It was all trendy. It was like where like the people that did like TV shows and stuff would get their hair taken care of at. So, just fancy to the max. I went from living with my dad, and although the camping in the later years had kind of disappeared, like once he bought the house, I don't know, it's almost like maybe camping was a way to get out of the apartment that he lived in, or get out of wherever he was living at the time, like, because he never had decent places to live. And then once he got a house, he was probably like, oh, I got a house now, I don't need to go roughing it out in the woods anymore, or something like that, because that was pretty much the end of camping and all the outdoor activities that I can remember. Although he did go on to Alaska, I don't know, he was probably roughing it up there to a certain extent on occasions, no idea. It was like a culture shock. I remember the kids in junior high school noting that I had changed and all this stuff. And my mom started packing me really healthy lunches, really healthy in her mind, right? Which she had read some stuff, and her information was kind of lame. Like the way my dad fed me when it was like, like deer and elk and fresh vegetables and canned vegetables and this kind of stuff. My mom was like, here, eat this bread, or eat this bread, or eat that bread, and hardly any meat. We were actually vegetarian, I think. I spent 10 years as a vegetarian, and I just, I was able to function and live and all that, but it just was not a prosperous life. I started packing on weight, I think, almost immediately. I think I was a pretty skinny kid when I first went to live with my mom. Not overly skinny, but just fit. And then slowly over the years, all the way until I moved with my grandparents, then I started dieting to try to lose the weight. And it was, it's just all that bread. And in hindsight, I totally know it was just like, that was all there was to eat in the house. Here, do you want this kind of bread? Do you want that kind of bread? Back to these lunches that my mother used to pack me, full of all kinds of stuff out of this natural store we had. I remember there was I did get bullied, and I don't know why I got bullied. I was a pretty big kid generally, but I think maybe that was why I got bullied, because I was taller than average, so I kind of stood out type of thing. So one day I was opening this bag of drink that my mom, their little drink bags that were full of like some kind of blended up grain or something, kind of tasted like chocolate, maybe caramel or something in there. So this kid grabs the bag and just splashes it all over me. He turned out to be a plumber. He was just the biggest douche ever. He picked on me quite a bit. Don't remember very specific reasons like why, but he would do shit like that, squeeze the bag and blow it up all over my face, like ruin my shirt or something like that, nice button-up shirt. I think one of the most unique things that ever transpired. So once I moved in with my mom, I was getting driven. I touched on this before. I was getting driven to school by my stepdad. So I was getting to school really early and then leaving like on a TriMet bus or walking if I didn't have any money. TriMet's like the local public transit system. I had a lot of time before and after school. So I had this other little friend that was kind of in the same situation as me. He would walk after school to home. He lived in something. He had some weird parents too. Super weird parents.